Welcome back to Street Writers. One more time.
Have you done this podcast before?
Welcome back to Street Writers.
It's 10 minutes of writing motivation, inspiration, and activation. We've got somebody on this week who is so incredibly active. Evan Skolnick has joined us.
Hi, everybody. Good to be here.
I have known Evan forever, and that is one of the best parts of my professional and personal life. He has been a writer in so many different places, from comic books with Spider-Man, Doc Strange, The Hulk, New Warriors, to the game field as a narrative designer and a game writer, where he has nailed it on such huge titles like The Walking Dead, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, Star Wars 1313, Cuphead, Concrete Genie most recently, and is the author of Video Game Storytelling, which is frequently cited as one of the books you must read if you want to be a video game writer, and also runs the yearly Game Developers Conference session on storytelling, which has probably influenced literally thousands of people over the, 9, 10, 12 years you've been doing this. And if I didn't know you so well, I'd be impressed by all those credits.
you know better, Dave. You know better.
Good, then I can feel like I won't be tongue-tied trying to talk to you, because Dan will bring you down to earth.
Oh, believe me, Dan will bring me down a peg or two. Yeah, I have been busy, but it's over a very long period of time. So, it sounds like I'm very busy, but I'm actually quite lazy. And I don't really get much done on a week-to-week basis. But, when you stack it up over 30 years, sure, it sounds like a lot.
You pace yourself.
I definitely pace myself.
It's a marathon. It's a marathon.
It is.
And I think another part of what you do, which is amazing in terms of writing and then passing on knowledge of writing, which maybe is part of what this podcast is about a little bit, is you teach game writing, right, at Cogswell College now in California. You previously taught it on the East Coast.
There are loads of game design programs in the country, probably, hundreds. And because it's a big industry, and in terms of revenue, much larger than the movie industry has been for quite a long time. So there's quite a demand for people who can be professional game developers. And so these programs have sprung up. But in terms of the game writing aspect, that has only emerged as being its own component really in the last 12, 13 years or so. I mean, when I entered games in 2001, I came in as a producer.
Right.
Basically leveraging my time as a Marvel editor, managing creative teams. And what I found once I got into the industry and began working on projects was that the writing was pretty much all done by game designers. And it was like one of many things they had to do. They had varying levels of training and ability in this area. And it's one of the reasons why, game stories were kind of all over the map for a long time, and still are in many ways, but have been definitely improving because people realize that this might be something you want to bring a professional writer in, or have someone who actually has some understanding of how story works. And so that's what I began doing more and more of during my career, is moving away from the management side and moving more toward the story side. Just because on my own projects, I would be like, well, who wrote this dialogue? I used to do this for a living. Let me just do a polish on this. And soon enough, that became more and more of what people started asking me to do. Is like, hey, get Evan to take a look at this, do a dialogue pass on this. And then I really enjoyed it because, now I was taking the two careers that I kind of built up to that point, comic book writing and editing, and video game production, understanding how video games are made, and I could kind of fuse them together and kind of use all the abilities I had really. And so it was very satisfying. And once I started doing that, I realized I want to do more of that, and eventually led to doing it full time, which in turn led to teaching at one of the only 3 schools in the country that actually have a game writing concentration. And this one is one I'm spearheading out here in San Jose at Cogswell College. I taught at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. They're all similar, and they all basically teach students to be game designers, but with a writing focus and narrative design focus.
That's fascinating, because I've always wondered, keeping track of those stories and building a full kind of narrative. I mean, that's a task. It's got to take some amazing skills to get there. I'll tell you that much.
It does. It takes the skills that any writer can bring to a project, but then you have to learn a bunch of new things as well. Like when you move to any medium, you move from comics to movies, and there's a whole bunch of different things you have to consider. You move from movie to TV, and suddenly you've got a budget change there, and other issues and commercials possibly. And then games are its own animal, and there are things about writing for games that are completely different than writing for other media. And so you can't just take a writer and drop them into games and think they're going to succeed without understanding a lot about how games are really made. And so it took me a long time to learn it myself. Mm-hmm. And so what I do now is try to jumpstart other people to learn it much faster.
It's time to take a swing at this.
These are the tips, tricks, and sleight of hand to power up your pencil and percolate your brain. So, Evan, you got a good tip for us, for all us struggling writers, which everyone on the planet always is?
Well, I'm a very literal person, so I took your take a swing at this theme very literally and thought about baseball. And I thought about taking a swing at a pitch.
In our mixed metaphor way, our take a swing at this was supposed to be like a punch, but whatever, we'll go with the baseball one.
When I take a punch, there's usually when I take a swing at somebody, there's usually a bat in my hand.
So you're there. See, that's true street writing.
My point today would be to know when to take a pitch. And that means when to not swing at something. In baseball, it's just as important to know when to swing as when not to. And when you're a freelance writer, and that's what I've done for a number of years, these opportunities come up. And of course you find they're feast or famine. You've got an open period of time and nothing's happening. And then 3 more clients come knocking on your door. You have to kind of know when to say no. It's funny, when I was in Little League, there was a point at which someone said, take the pitch. The coach was like, take the pitch to some player, and he swung at the ball. And like, why didn't you take that pitch? And I thought taking a pitch meant swinging at it. Taking a pitch means no, let it go. Right. So you have to ask yourself, is this a fit for my skill set? You don't just go, oh, I definitely want this because it's going to pay me money. Or should you pass this along to someone who might be a better fit for this? So recently, I'll give an example. I found myself on a call with a potential client for a new game-like product. And basically the target audience was going to be women. Mm-hmm. And there were about 5 or 6 people on the call, none of whom were women.
Good. I see this going well already.
And I'm not a woman. And I just felt like maybe you want to find a writer who's actually, in the target audience, maybe has lived, walked in those shoes. So things like that. And what often happens with game writers and possibly other freelance writers as well is that, I will often try to connect them with someone in my network who would be a better fit than I am, because I've had that done for me. People have writers who have been too busy or have felt it wasn't a fit for them, have said, I can't take this on, but I know someone who would be a great fit for you. Let me connect you with them. And so a lot of my work has come from other writers in this business, which is, it's your competition, but it's also your friends. So, and then the other thing is, can you handle it? Do you have the bandwidth to do this work? It's better to say, I can't do this for you right now. I want to, but I also don't want to let you down. And I'd rather say no now and have you move on to someone who has the bandwidth. And again, try to connect you with that person than to under-deliver later or deliver late later, which I obviously will never want to do.
It all leads back to this idea of it's your reputation out there, because so much of our business, in whatever area of it, is word of mouth.
It is really hard to say no, especially to a new client, because they probably will not come back to you. It's like The Godfather. He doesn't come back to you once you've refused him, right?
You're building a network as well, because in some ways, as you're saying, a lot of times you're recommending somebody else. I can't do it. I'm not right for this, but she is or he is. And do you find that maybe if that new client isn't the one to reach back to you, that extended network that you've done a solid for, they're coming back to you? If
I understand what you're saying, I mean, basically that writer that I point them to, may someday be in the same situation I was and return the favor, for example. It's not expected.
Sure.
And that day may never come.
Like The Godfather, right?
Right. I keep thanking man. I'm glad you're right there with me on that.
I sense the mafia episode
I sense a theme emerging here. But you're, in this business especially, your network is everything. Because the game writing jobs that are advertised are few and far between, and there are so many people who want to do this that they just get swamped. I mean, you're talking hundreds of applications for every one that is advertised. So what you want are the ones that aren't advertised, the ones that they don't want to deal with 200 submissions. They want to just quickly connect with someone that they can trust. And so network is everything. I took a call, 2 weeks ago that was set up, and it ended up being, the former heads of some major Hollywood studios. And it was connected through someone I had worked with for 6 months, 5 years ago. It really is important to just maintain that goodwill across it and make sure that the people that you've worked with liked working with you and respected the work you did. But I'm reliant on that network mainly for my work. I very rarely will apply to something that I see posted, because I know that even though I might my experience level may put me near the top of that pile, it's still a pile.
Got a tip to share? send it to streetwriters.podcast@gmail.com. This is part 1 of our time with game writer Evan Skolnick. Check back next episode for the next level.
Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with us at streetwriters.podcast@gmail.com.
Tell your friends to listen and their friends too. Take it to the streets.
And fight to write.
Everybody does it better than we do. It's like
We're being phased out.